You believe that battle lies only in formations, in steel, in maps drawn across the earth. But I tell you, there is a deeper battlefield, one whose terrain is not seen with the eye, but felt beneath the skin. It is the realm of emotion. And anger, in particular, is a mountain both feared and misunderstood. It does not rise at random. It does not crash like thunder without cause. Anger follows paths. It is shaped by pressure, stoked by injustice, redirected by silence, and harnessed, if the leader is wise. The fool treats anger like fire in a field, something to stamp out. But the strategist, the true commander, studies the direction of the wind and lays stone around the fire so that it warms the camp rather than burns it. This is the art of managing emotional terrain. You ask why this matters. You think, I lead armies, not moods. I govern people, not feelings. But I say again, to ignore the emotional currents of your people is to march across ice without testing its thickness. Peace without expression is brittle. Calm without clarity is a trap. The general who cannot read anger will lose battles long before the swords are drawn. So I offer you this now, not as metaphor but as strategy. You must learn to see anger as part of the terrain. You must know where it flows, where it pools, where it hides beneath the surface. And you must understand how suppression, though it may appear to create harmony, builds up pressure beneath the soil. This is not simply a matter of morale, it is a matter of victory and defeat. Let us now walk through this terrain together. I will show you where anger lives, how it grows, how it vanishes and returns, how its suppression erodes the foundations of strength, and how its expression can lead not to chaos, but to clarity. We begin with the false peace of silence and the danger it conceals. Peace is not always what it seems. There is a kind of stillness that comforts and another that deceives. You must learn to know the difference. When your people cease to express their anger, do not assume you have led them to harmony. You may have only taught them silence. A ruler who forbids the expression of anger, who discourages complaints, who punishes those who speak of injustice, may believe he is preserving order. But what he builds is not order. It is blockage, a dam, rising higher with each unspoken truth. When neither anger is voiced nor injustice recognized, then no outlet remains for either, and so the current is forced underground. Do you not see? If the people cannot express their anger, then even their ability to feel it begins to dull. When that expression is denied long enough, they forget the injustice that caused it. And if they forget the cause, they cannot express it again. This is how you break the signal chain of the heart. This is the bottleneck, not a single restriction, but a pattern. First silence, then forgetfulness, then a hollow calm. But do not think that calm is peace. Beneath the bottleneck, pressure grows. You may not hear it, but it's there. The leader who assumes stillness means contentment is like the commander who sees an empty field and believes no army hides in the hills beyond. What is hidden can still kill you. What is unspoken can still move armies. This is why I say, a blocked path for emotion is not a resolution. It is a delay. And delay is the enemy of strategy, for it blinds you to timing. You will not see the moment when the silence becomes rupture, when the dam breaks not in one place, but all at once. To master such a field, you must not only hear anger, you must make space for it. You must let the waters move. Let there be paths of expression, not because you favor discord, but because you understand flow. You understand that the motion of anger, when allowed, clears the terrain, but when dammed, it carves new paths on its own, often toward destruction. Now follow me deeper. For when you suppress emotion long enough, you do not simply stop its movement, you turn its silence into a pattern. And that pattern has a logic of its own. Once silence takes hold, it does not remain still. It spreads. Like a fog that thickens each time it is ignored, the suppression of emotion creates its own weather. In time, it becomes a system, one that feeds itself, that reinforces its own blindness. The more your people are kept from speaking, the less they feel. The less they feel, the less they see. And once they stop seeing, the silence grows absolute. This is the chain of silence. When anger is not expressed, it fades from awareness. When injustice is not acknowledged, expression becomes unnecessary. When anger is no longer felt, injustice disappears from view. Each link weakens the next until the whole chain becomes a loop, repeating, deepening, cutting off all flow of truth. You must understand, this is not peace. It is blindness repeated 3 times. A general who leads without feedback leads with broken instruments. A ruler who cannot read the signs of discontent has lost the art of command. When anger, expression, and awareness are each suppressed, you lose your eyes, your ears, and your instincts. You begin to believe in your own illusion. Do not be deceived by the quiet. In such a system, no complaint rises, not because the people are content, but because they have forgotten the shape of their suffering. They do not bring you their pain because they no longer believe it matters. And when that happens, your governance is no longer strategy, it is sleepwalking. I tell you, no enemy strikes more surely than the one who waits for a sleeping army. The system that loses its own feedback is the easiest to destabilize, because it cannot tell where the wound is. Push it, and it cannot respond. Break it, and it will not reform. So what must you do? Interrupt the chain. Teach the people to feel again, not with indulgence, but with clarity. Create rituals of expression, not to glorify anger, but to make it visible. Invite speech. Invite recognition. Make discontent observable, not so it festers, but so it can flow. Only then will the chain break. Only then will your instruments return to your hands and the fog begin to lift. But even if you break this loop, know this: silence leaves traces. And what was once buried does not vanish. It waits just beneath the ground. And there comes a time, often sudden, often sharp, when it returns. Let us turn now to that moment. Let us speak of the return of the fire. There is a silence deeper than restraint. It is not the quiet of patience or the discipline of timing. It is the silence of forgetting. When a society suppresses anger and forbids its expression, it does not simply delay conflict. It begins to rot the roots of recognition. When no one may speak of what is wrong, the sense of wrongness itself starts to vanish, not just from the tongue, but from the mind. At first, the people bite their lips, then they stop forming the words in their thoughts. In time, they stop noticing the harm at all, and so injustice becomes a ghost, present in every stone of the city, yet seen by no one. Felt in every heart, yet named by none. This is the most dangerous piece of all. For it is not held together by order but by amnesia, and a people who forget injustice lose the very tools they would need to repair it. As a general, you must recognize the peril. A system that suppresses both anger and voice erases the capacity for correction. There are no warnings, there are no protests, there is no chance to adjust. It is like steering a ship with no rudder, no stars, and no cry from the crew when the rocks appear. But do not mistake this silence for stability. What has been buried is not gone. It is only out of reach, and when it returns, and it always returns, it will not do so as memory. It will come back as rage, raw and unshaped. A people who have forgotten how to speak their pain do not ask for reform. They break, they erupt, they tear down what could have been repaired. And when that moment comes, the leader who once prized order over clarity will have no defenses left. He will not be attacked by armies. He will be consumed by the release of 1,000 silenced voices, all speaking at once, too late. To lead, you must preserve not only peace, but perception. Do not sever the thread between anger and awareness. Let the people see what they feel. Let them speak what they see. Only then can justice be known. Only then can the system breathe. For a fortress may seem impenetrable, but if it no longer sees its own cracks, it will fall from within, untouched by siege. And what follows such a collapse? Let us now examine what happens when silence spreads not just through individuals but across the entire system, when the collapse of one emotional thread pulls the rest down with it. In war, a broken sword can be reforged. A fallen wall can be rebuilt, but a broken bond between people cannot be mended so easily. Once trust shatters, it does not return as it was. It returns brittle, and where the joints have cracked, pressure will break them again. When one part of a system suppresses what it feels, the others soon follow. A man who hides his anger begins to doubt what he sees. A people who cannot speak begin to question what they know. And when injustice is no longer acknowledged, It hollows out the meaning of all expression. Each loss ripples outward. Each silence spreads like frost. This is how the wheel breaks. The connection between anger, expression, and awareness is not linear, it is mutual. Each depends on the others. Remove one and the others begin to fall. Take away anger and expression loses purpose. Take away expression and clarity fades. Take away clarity and anger loses its compass. The spokes of the wheel collapse inward. What once turned smoothly now grinds, seizes, and fractures. This is the system in dissonance. The people no longer trust one another because no one can read the emotional terrain. Is he angry or merely silent? Is she oppressed or simply obedient? No one knows. And so suspicion takes the place of solidarity. Morale breaks not with shouts but with silence, not with rebellion but with withdrawal. A general leading such a people commands a shadow army. They may follow orders but they do not believe. They may wear uniforms but they do not stand together. They may chant in unison but their hearts are scattered like dry leaves. This is the greatest vulnerability a leader can face. It is not the enemy at the gate, it is the absence of cohesion within the walls. How does a strategist respond? By restoring rhythm where silence has become static, by reviving trust where suppression has bred doubt. You must rekindle the bonds between feeling, truth, and voice, not by force, but by recognition. Let the people see that their emotions are not a threat to the state, but its lifeblood. Let them speak their pain before it becomes poison. You do not need to agree with every cry to hear it. You do not need to fix every wound to acknowledge it. But if you fail to hear, the wounds will deepen. If you fail to see, the cry will become a scream. And when the wheel breaks, no one rides to safety. There is still a path forward. There is a way to move from fracture to flow. But to walk that path, you must reverse the direction of the forces themselves. You must take the broken and bring it into harmony. Let us now turn to that final transformation. What is blocked can be cleared. What is scattered can be gathered. What is broken can be reshaped, not by returning it to what it was, but by creating the conditions for something stronger to emerge. When a river floods, the farmer does not curse the water. He studies the land, opens channels, builds new banks. He gives the water somewhere to go. So it is with anger. If you try to stop it, it will spill over, but if you guide it, it will irrigate your fields. A system in harmony is not one without anger. It is one in which anger has a path. When anger is expressed openly, it does not escalate. It clarifies. It sharpens the outline of injustice. It brings light to what was obscured. When people are allowed to speak their discontent, they reveal the shape of the problem, not with fire, but with form. And when anger and clarity exist together, expression becomes natural. Not forced, not shouted, simply present, like water flowing downhill. From this alignment of feeling, voice, and understanding, unity is born. Not the brittle calm of suppression, but the strength of mutual recognition. The people feel seen. They see each other. And from that, they stand together not in silence, but in resonance. This is the terrain of harmony. The wise general does not wait for such a state to arise by accident. He cultivates it. He builds systems where anger can be voiced safely. Councils, ceremonies, rituals of complaint and redress. He listens, not to control, but to calibrate. He moves with the emotional landscape, not against it. He understands that morale is not maintained through punishment, but through participation. That loyalty does not come from silence, but from solidarity. And when he senses the terrain shifting, when anger begins to rise, he does not panic. He walks the lines, he asks questions, he listens for tone, for breath, for what is not said. He gives space for that energy to move. In doing so, he turns potential revolt into renewal. So I say to you, seek not the end of anger, seek its integration. Let it be heard, shaped, and transformed, not into violence, but into vision. This is the highest form of command, to ride the current without drowning in it, to allow the people to speak without the state unraveling, to hold unity not through fear, but through flow. This is how you win without fighting. This is how you turn fire into light. You wish to lead. Then you must become a student of the unseen. Steel can be weighed. Armies can be counted, but emotion must be sensed. You must learn to walk the field not only with your eyes, but with your pulse. Anger is not mere noise. It is signal. It is movement beneath the surface. If you know how to read it, you gain foresight. If you ignore it, you lose footing. Consider your people as a river. If you block it at every turn, it does not disappear. It rises behind your dams, erodes your barriers, waits for the moment to burst. But if you guide it, through channels of expression, through rituals of redress, through acknowledgement, you convert force into flow. So I say, build channels before the flood, dig trenches before the fire spreads, create spaces where anger may breathe so it does not burn. A wise leader listens not only to speech but to its absence. He does not fear discontent, he seeks it, he studies it, he draws it out, not to indulge it, but to clarify it, shape it, answer it. This is the art of emotional command, not to dominate emotion, but to understand its movements better than your enemies do. And what of your enemies? Watch the quiet ones. If they do not complain, if they do not protest, if they appear too still, be wary. Stillness in an enemy may be discipline, but it may also be suppression. And suppression is opportunity. Ask yourself, do they silence their people? Do they mistake obedience for loyalty? Do they confuse unity with fear? Then they are brittle, and the right pressure, applied at the right moment, will shatter them from within. You need not invade such a state. You need only provoke the return of the fire. But be warned, this blade cuts both ways. If your own house is built on silence, then you too are vulnerable to the storm. The fire will not care that you wear the robe of command. It will burn through generals and soldiers alike. So what must you do? Teach your people to read the weather of the heart. Teach them to recognize rising anger as they would rising wind. Let them speak, let them be heard. Build your systems to feel, not just to function. In doing so, you create a force that is not just coordinated but connected, not just quiet but clear. The strongest force is not the one that never breaks. It is the one that flows, adapts, and returns to form. Like water, like breath, like a people whose anger is seen and shaped, not repressed, not denied. This is the art of war without swords, the art of peace without delusion. This is the strategist of emotion.